Hi everyone, welcome to this video. Today, as you can see, I'm not walking around the streets of Warsaw. I've returned to my studio because I really want to make sure that I do these stories justice. I want to make sure that I get this right, and I want to have a bit of focus on the matter at hand. This video is going to be dedicated to the Transgender Day of Remembrance. And for those of you who don't know, Transgender Day of Remembrance falls on the 20th of November. And it's a way of remembering any transgender person who's passed and to just remember their lives and to think about them as individuals. I want to focus on two stories in this video, two people whose stories really touched me, and I think also open up a wider conversation as well about what transgender people are in the context of society. So the first person whose story I want to touch on is someone called Kesaria Abramidze. And Kesaria was a transgender actress, blogger, model, the first openly transgender person in Georgia to make an appearance on national television. And by Georgia, I mean the country Georgia, not the state in America. Kesaria was murdered on the 18th of September 2024 by somebody whose name hasn't actually been released, a 26-year-old person, and they were arrested shortly afterwards at an airport. They were in a relationship together, but it seems that that relationship was abusive and he'd previously threatened her. What's particularly notable about her murder is that it happened on the very day after the Georgian government passed a very strong anti-LGBT bill into the laws of the country. And for me, that suggests that when the governments are passing these kinds of laws, it has a very real impact and an effect on not just trans people, but the wider community as well. It seems to me that a lot of the time when these types of laws are enacted, it makes people feel that they can be more extreme with their actions. We've seen in the past how when racism and these sorts of things are being discussed in parliament and in governmental spaces, it seems to empower a certain type of person to take to the streets. I mean, literally, we saw race riots in the UK. Similarly, here we can see a direct link between a law being enacted and a murder taking place. Another story that I want to talk about isn't quite so recent. It's actually 10 years old. And this is the story of Leelah Alcorn. And Leelah Alcorn was a transgender teen, and she passed on December 28th, 2014. So we're coming up to the 10th year anniversary of her passing. And she committed suicide. And her suicide note, I saw fragments of it and it just absolutely broke my heart. She was feeling hopeless. She was feeling like there was no future for her. But some of the extracts in there are really quite heartbreaking, and I can't help but to relate to a lot of the things that she was saying. For example, and I'm going to quote from her here, "When I was 14, I learned what transgender meant and cried of happiness. After 10 years of confusion, I finally understood who I was. I immediately told my mum and she reacted extremely negatively, telling me that it was a phase, that I would never truly be a girl, that God doesn't make mistakes, that I'm wrong." And I just can't imagine having that sense of finally understanding who you are. And I've talked about this for myself in the past, that relief, that joy of finally recognizing that who you are isn't something to be ashamed of, and then to be told by your parent, the person that should accept you for who you are unconditionally, to be told that you're wrong and bad and evil in the eyes of God. That must have been so devastating for her. And there was more that she wrote as well. And one of the things that she really hoped for as a result of her death was that it would mean something. And here we are 10 years later, and we're still talking about transgender rights. We're still talking about laws being passed in countries where they're stripping our rights away. They are directly attacking us in the media. And for the likes of Leelah, it feels like their deaths are merely a statistic. We've seen more recently murders, for example, Brianna Gay. And even then, in cases like those, it doesn't seem to change the narrative whatsoever. It doesn't seem to make people recognize and realize the damage that certain types of narratives, the certain types of things that are being said have in reality. Ultimately, it can lead to us being attacked and murdered in some cases, or on the other hand, it can make us feel so powerless that there is no future for us, that's all we can do to try to make some meaning of our lives. Ultimately, we can still talk about Leelah because of what she did. And that's really sad. We should be talking about Leelah now as somebody who is an adult, who has added something to the world. But because of how she was made to feel by society, by her parents, by, in this case, religion, she felt that she had no other choice. But what can we take from this? What can we learn from this? Well, first of all, I just want to say to any trans people who are watching this, your lives do matter. There is a future for you, even though things might feel really bleak today. There are movements, there are charities, there are institutions out there dedicated to supporting you, and I will link some of those in the description below. Please do reach out to any of them if you're feeling like you need some kind of reassurance about the future or support of things that you can do. For any cis people watching this and thinking that's really bad, what can I do? Well, first and foremost, if you have any trans people in your life, just make them feel safe. Make them feel that you are there for them. It makes a huge difference just knowing that there are people out there who are going to support us, even if that just means asking us how our journey's going, asking us how we are doing on that particular day, and just being an ear and receptive to whatever it is we have to say. You don't even need to do anything more than that. Just let us know that you are there for us. If you're the parents of a trans person, I talk about this in another video, but goodness gracious, please give them the grace and space to at least express what their gender means to them. Don't start telling them that they're evil and bad. It's really very heartbreaking. But I just want us to know that there is something for us in the future. I honestly believe that, and I wouldn't be here today if I felt otherwise. I know who am I? I'm just one woman out here in the world, and maybe you might say that I'm being naive and silly, but I do strongly believe that we can all exist together, and that's not going to be tomorrow, and that might not be in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. It might take time, it might take energy, it might take a lot of effort, but I do believe it. And it may be a very difficult road that we're going to have to walk, but we need to stay strong and we need to stay true to ourselves. We need to prove to the world around us that we exist and that we are not going anywhere. We will not be driven back into the closet. We will not be driven to the ends of our lives because of some people's discomfort and disgust with us, because that's not acceptable. I want you to remember Leelah, and I want you to remember Kesaria for the people that they were, the beauty and light that they brought to the world. I don't know if they'd want to be seen as victims, but I know that Leelah in particular wanted the world to find meaning in her life. If there's something that you want to do to support the idea that Leelah's life did mean something, there was a petition after Leelah's death where people were looking to end conversion therapy in the US, and it garnered hundreds of thousands of signatures, and Barack Obama eventually discussed this, talking about wanting to end conversion therapy in the US. Unfortunately, as you can see from this map, it's still very legal in several states across the country. So if you see this story and there's something that you want to do, and if you're a resident in any of those states, then maybe start a campaign to try to end that particular type of action in where you live. In the UK as well, it's still very much legal. So it's something that you can do, maybe write to your local MP or try to start some kind of campaign or become part of a campaign. Look out for petitions that you can sign to try to force real, genuine change so that people like Leelah won't have to endure this particular thing anymore in the future. In her suicide note, Leelah also requested that people donate funds to a transgender advocacy group, and there's a couple that I've been promoting through this Transgender Week of Awareness, and again I'll put those links in the description below. I hope that you are all doing well, and I know that these stories might make things feel bleak and hopeless, but as I say, there are so many reasons for us to not lose hope, and the world is so much better with you in it, whoever you are. Please do find support and help if you feel that you are in need of it. And do know that I at least am here for you if ever you need it as well. Okay, all the best. Thanks for watching and take care. I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.